I'm Aaron Maté, sitting in for Jimmy Dore, here with Malcolm Fleschner. Here's the headline from the New York Post. Biden cheat sheet shows he had advanced knowledge of journalists' question. A cheat sheet held by President Biden during a Wednesday press conference revealed that the 80-year-old commander-in-chief had advanced knowledge of a question from a journalist. How are you squaring your domestic priorities, like reshoring semiconductors manufacturing, with alliance-based foreign policy? Read a question from Los Angeles Times reporter Courtney Subramanian. That's a tough name to pronounce. Subramanian, probably. The revelation came despite a joint press conference with South Korean. The revelation came during, a joint press conference with South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol that discussed growing nuclear threats from North Korea as the nations celebrate the 70th anniversary of their alliance. Another cheat sheet held the names of other Biden administration officials to show the order in which remarks would be delivered at the press conference. And there it is right there. Biden was caught red-handed with a cheat sheet that contained the names and questions of reporters he was scheduled to answer and listen as this reporter goes along with the scam and functions as the propaganda arm of the U.S. political establishment.
First question from Courtney of the Los Angeles Times.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your top economic priority has been to build up U.S. domestic manufacturing in competition with China. But your rules against expanding chip manufacturing in China is hurting South Korean companies that rely heavily on Beijing. Are you damaging a key ally in the competition with China to help your domestic politics ahead of the election? And one for President Yoon. There have been concerns since last year that North Korea will soon be conducting its 7th nuclear test amid growing domestic support in your country for your own nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, Russia has suggested it could send its latest weapons to North Korea if South Korea sends lethal aid to Ukraine. How do you seek to manage the North Korea risk amid obligations to Ukraine and NATO? Thank you.
So there you have it. Biden getting advance warning of what this LA Times reporter is going to ask him. Here's more. This is even worse than I thought. Not only is Biden told the name of the reporter, their question, and notes on the answer, but even is shown their picture so he can be sure that he is calling on the right person. And the New York Post goes on, it's not the first time Biden's crib notes have been outed by speedy photojournalists, which fuel speculation about his mental acuity. His physician reported the president was in good health in February, but refused to field questions from reporters about his cognitive strength. Last June, the president exposed a comically worded cheat sheet with detailed instructions. You enter the Roosevelt room and say hello to participants, the note read. Then immediately directed the oldest ever president, you take your seat. And there,
don't sit in someone else's seat, Joe. Stop that. Don't do that.
There it is. Those are the instructions that Biden received, how to enter the room and sit down. In July 2021, POTUS accepted an embarrassing note from an aide, which was also snapped by a photographer that said, "Sir, there is something on your chin." I didn't know that one. And meanwhile, you compare that to the criticism that Trump got when he also had a cheap sheet underlying his, denials of any collusion with Russia. When Trump was caught with that, there was a field day. With Biden, since the media is in on this cheat sheet business, it's much different.
Although you have to credit Biden, he didn't, compared to you, he didn't even bother trying to pronounce her last name. So
that's true. Well, I can't fault him for that.
So, but if you're a reporter, do you what is your responsibility to not participate in this? It's just all theater. Everything is theater now. I feel like there was a time when in Congress people would make speeches and it wouldn't be all pre-recorded and pre-established and everyone would know what they were. I mean, now it's just all for show. And this is like the worst possible theater. How boring is it? Joe Biden goes out and gives a planned response to a pre-planned question. Meanwhile, now we got this week's special guest is the South Korean president, and that's the big deal, is that he gets to participate in this theater also. At what point do we just call this out and say we shouldn't? If we're going to listen or watch reality TV, it's going to be something better than this crap. Somebody should grab a wig or something, make it interesting.
Well, it is entertaining though when they get caught doing it. That's the part that actually is pretty comical. But yes, watching this performance happen and people pretend as if this is serious journalism, that's a spectacle in itself. Malcolm, over to you for
but even also with the press conferences with the Jen Psaki and now Karine
Jean-Pierre, yeah.
Jean-Pierre, it's all the same. And then the uproar when Simon Atebe, or I forgot his name, if that's his name, the African reporter,
right,
says, "Hey, I want to ask a question." And the great thing is not just that how offended the White House press secretary gets, but that everybody else is like, "Hey, we got a script here, and you're going, oh, book. There's no ad-libbing here, Simon," and they get so offended when he wants to ask a question that's not pre-approved. Like that's that. If you want to be a journalist, like you're like all these existing strictures that are imposed on us by the Democratic the administration, whoever it is, and we're also gonna just come down like a ton of bricks on anybody who tries to step out of line. That's what you want to go into journalism for?
We're telling jokes in Nashville, Honolulu, Los Angeles, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Chicago, Rosemont, San Diego, and more. Go to jimmydore.com to get a link for all those tickets. Plus, you can watch my new special, COVID Lies Are Funny.